Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle, educator, healer, speaker, guide, and fierce advocate for your yes. I help sensitive and successful men and women find, reclaim, and live from their full embodied yes. Through empowering you to understand your energetic hygiene, establish healthy boundaries, and heal your nervous system, you'll be able to create your yes-filled life and move through your days with more freedom, more ease, and more joy. You'll hear inspiring stories of people who found their full-bodied yes, thought leaders who pursued their own dreams and are living life on their terms, and learn new ways to find the courage, joy, ease, and freedom to more fully step into your yes-filled life. Say no to the good so you can say yes to the great. Join me on this journey to discover your yes-filled life. Whether you're looking to break free from the golden handcuffs, start a new business, find your dream job, or simply live with more intention and mindfulness, I've got you covered. Let's explore the possibilities together and make your dreams a reality. Ready? Let's do this. Let's get you to your yes-filled life. Hello, and welcome back to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. I'm so glad you're here today because today we're going to be talking about a really hot topic. That topic is being sensitive. Whether you call it sensitive or highly sensitive, the good news is that there is a growing body of research out there to support that there's a lot of science behind what it means to be sensitive and different ways that you can function even better as a sensitive person. In particular, today, I'm going to be sharing 3 ways that are going to really impact your life in a positive way. 3 things that you can do at the end of this podcast episode that will impact you whether or not you're a parent, but especially if you're a parent, because you'll be able to help support your children, whether they are highly sensitive or not, in regulating their nervous systems, creating energetic hygiene, and having better boundaries. But before we dive into that, I'm realizing that unless you really have listened to the podcast for a long time, you may not know my story and how I became the educator, healer, and guide that I am today. And so I wanted to dive back into the archives of my life and share a little bit about how I came to be here as your host. So it's February 2007, and I've just arrived home from a leadership conference. Finally, I was just thinking to myself on the plane, finally, I can create the life I dream of with my partner and my daughter, having friends and laughter, wealth and abundance, and travel, all while creating an impact in the world. I'm feeling alive with excitement, expansion, and possibility. I feel beautiful, capable, and inspired. As soon as I pass through the security doors and I see my family, my heart sinks. Not because I'm not happy to see them, but because I have come face to face with the life of compromises I have created for myself. And I already feel smaller. The joy I'd felt on the plane before morphed into tears of despair later that night as I lay curled up on the floor of my closet, sobbing into a pillow again. I don't recognize myself. I've lost myself putting everyone else first. I've lost sight of my hopes and dreams. I can't even remember what they were. I don't know what I liked, what I want, what I need, or who I am. I just know something has to change. But today, all I can do is curl up in the closet and sob. I grew up in a tiny town called Chadron, Nebraska. And my dad was the college band director. My mom, also a professional music educator, taught private lessons. My parents were hardworking Midwesterners, and they often traveled for professional music events. I got my love of travel for them, every summer, we would take what I called the band director tour of America. And we would go stay with band directors that my parents had made friends with all around the country, staying in their spare rooms or on their couches or on their air mattresses or hideaways. And we got to see a lot of the United States on the band director tour of America. I remember my sister and I used to ride in our Chevy Monza. You'll have to look that up. We'd ride in the backseat of our two-door car, and we used to eat green grapes. And then we each had a water bottle that we would spray on each other and then roll the windows down. We'd have my parents roll the windows down from the front because it was a two-door, right? And then we'd spray each other with the water just to keep cool in the heat driving across the country. But I got my love of travel from these experiences. When I was a little girl, I could feel other people around me and sense what they needed. I always knew what everyone was feeling, but I didn't understand that not everyone could do that. I was frequently told not to be so sensitive and that it was all in my imagination. I found myself holding back, staying quiet and observing those around me. And along the way, I stopped fully feeling my feelings because it was so much easier to feel other people's feelings. I fell into people pleasing and doing for others because I could deeply feel their pain, their needs, and their desires. And the truth is, part of me liked being the one who could support them. It made me feel important. It gave me a sense of purpose. And I felt like I was helping people through their challenges. But what I didn't see was that I was finding people who would take just so that I could give. And I was raised by Midwesterners in the Midwest, and being the daughter of musicians in the Midwest, it became easy to be a very hardworking music educator myself. I wanted to be the best of the best, just like my parents. I honed my skills and built my resume and became a well-recognized music educator. My favorite was choral music, and I loved working with kids. And while I loved the work, and I found tremendous reward in working with choirs and working with kids, I was hustling for my worth. I chased opportunities, awards, and recognition. And truth is, it was never enough. I found myself hustling faster and faster and faster. And somewhere along the way, I'd stopped listening to my body. I stopped listening to my inner knowing. I kept working while my body talked. And I talked back with antacids, ibuprofen, and caffeine. And the truth is, sometimes I talked back with wine, perhaps too much. But back to the story about coming back from the plane in 2007. I had joined Mary Kay in 2005 with the sole purpose to make friends and to plot a course to a career other than teaching. I really wanted to do something other than teaching because I found myself tired. I found myself burning out from the career that I loved. I ended up finding myself in a community of women in Mary Kay who believed in me far more than I'd ever believed in myself. And their belief in me buoyed me until I could learn to truly believe that I was worthy of happiness, love, and fulfillment just because I existed. The moment when all this shifted was when I found myself on the closet floor in 2007. And in that final time of sobbing on the floor, I had had enough. I finally admitted what was going on in my life. I finally told people how I was feeling, and I asked for help. My Mary Kay sisterhood rallied around me with the support I literally could never have dreamed of, providing resources and help, furnishing a home after I left in the divorce, loving me while I healed, and offering friendship and community. Their belief in me literally saved me and taught me to believe in myself. As I rebuilt my life, I realized how much I'd done for everyone because it felt easier to meet their needs. And I could see clearly how much I'd given and overgiven my entire life to those around me, never thinking of my own needs, never choosing people who would reciprocate. I recognized that I needed to shift so that I could call in healthier, more reciprocal relationships, friendships, and connections. And it started with me learning how to recover from people pleasing, learning how to set boundaries, learning to protect my energy, creating energetic hygiene, and healing my nervous system. I disowned my own gifts of high sensitivity and empathy and intuition and healing as a way to, quote, fit in, instead, using those gifts to supercharge the people pleasing that I was doing. I decided to reclaim my intuitive gifts and then discovered energy healing and went on my own healing journey. I became certified in several modalities, multiple modalities, learned to read oracle cards, and then also a trauma informed breathwork facilitator. Now I'm surrounded by people who respect me and love me for who I am. And I love to give and nurture others in a way that's truly fueling to me. I'm giving from a place of true generosity and a place of overflow, not depletion. I give from a full body yes, and I now teach other people to help find their full body yes. And today I work with the most beautiful, empathic, highly sensitive people who were probably also told, don't be so sensitive or you're too much. Does that sound familiar? So, as we talk about sensitivity and what it means to be highly sensitive, the truth is there has been a little bit of taboo. Is that the right use of the word? Tabooness? I don't know. Anyway, being sensitive was not always something that was used to describe someone in a positive way. It was almost a put down, like you're too sensitive, you're making this up, you're making a big deal out of nothing kind of a thing. But the truth is, there is a growing body of research that suggests your sensitivity is not only your superpower, but it's also the way in which you are made up. It's part of your biology. In February of 2023, I met with Melissa Hogenboom, who is a journalist and leads a team for BBC Work Life. And she has recently published an article on the BBC family tree called The Rise of Highly Sensitive Parents. I had met with Melissa in February of 2023 to give some background and perhaps be a case study for this article. Well, it happened that when she submitted the article to the editors of BBC, they decided to include the portions around the scientists and to not include a case study. And what I would have been offered was part of being the case study. And so while I'm not cited in the article, part of my contribution, I would like to think anyway, contributed. And so this article felt so good for me to read. I really recommend it. In fact, I'll link it in the show notes here, because if you even think you or your kids might be sensitive or highly sensitive, I would love for you to read this article. And here's why. Roughly 20 to 30% of the population are classed as being highly sensitive, according to a 2018 research paper. The research that I have been citing is much older than that. In fact, I've been citing a research paper from 1997. Well, this 2018 research paper is growing in recognition. And so the thing about being highly sensitive is it is not a liability. It doesn't make you weak. It is not a disorder. It's not diagnosable. And so it's not something that you can go to your doctor and say, hey, I think I'm highly sensitive. Can you do something? That's not how this works. That's not what this is. Being highly sensitive means that your brain is literally built differently than the brains of other people. And you actually have more ability to sense and pick up on emotions and sensations than 70 to 80% of the other population. And so being highly sensitive or sensitive might mean that you actually have more sensitivity to sensory input. For example, maybe bright lights are difficult, or perhaps it's loud noises. And for the highly sensitive person, there is an accumulative effect. So it might be fine for you to be in the bright light in the morning, but then by the end of the workday, maybe it just feels like really, really too bright. That could be an indication that you're actually highly sensitive. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. It just means that your brain has had enough of that particular kind of stimulation, whether we're talking about bright lights or loud noises. One of the other characteristics of someone who's highly sensitive is that there is a heightened awareness of how other people feel and of what other people's moods might be. And there is also a really strong correlation between the amount of empathy that a highly sensitive person has compared to the rest of the population. So if you've ever thought to yourself, gosh, I think I am feeling or sensing things in a way that is different from other people, you probably have been. And that doesn't mean you're wrong. That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you or anything to fix. It might be that you're highly sensitive. And in this article in the BBC, Melissa also includes a quiz. And so I invite you to go check out that quiz in her article. And you can take the quiz. It's just a few questions. It might take you 2 or 3 minutes. And it has some questions, and you can rate your sensitivity on a scale of 1 to 7. And this is really relevant because if you are indeed sensitive in any capacity, it means that your nervous system regulation is going to be a little bit different from someone who is not sensitive. And so that's where I want to come in and give you 3 really actionable things that you can do today, right now, that will really, really increase your ability to regulate your own nervous system. And when I say regulate your own nervous system, what I'm saying is find ways to calm down, find ways to stay grounded and centered and less reactive, where you're not taking on so much from other people and you feel a more, well, let's say you feel an increased sense of well-being. And so if we add parenting to the mix of sensitivity, it means that you're not getting the quiet time or the alone time to process that you might actually need. And so I want to help support you by telling you these 3 things that are going to make a huge difference. So the first thing is knowing that your sensitivity is not a liability. I would invite you to give yourself full permission to meet your needs, whether that means that your clothing needs to be soft and feel really good against your skin, or maybe it means that you need to create ambient lighting in your rooms so that you're not faced with a glaring overhead light, or maybe it means that you lower the volume on the TV. If you've ever, if you're sensitive, you're going to get this. If you've ever been watching TV with a partner and then you know that they haven't actually turned up the volume, but at the end of the night, it feels so loud you can hardly stand it, that's probably because you're sensitive. So for you, if you have a sound sensitivity, one of the really helpful things that you could do is to wear AirPods that are not connected to anything in your ears. And you can wear earplugs, of course, too. But the AirPods, they just help buffer a little bit of the sound. And even giving yourself a 10 or 15-minute break from the full sound that's happening around you will make a tremendous difference in your nervous system because it increases your capacity to deal with other stressors. So, you can do this at work. You can do this when you're around your kids. Just pop in your AirPods or your earbuds or whatever it is that you listen to, but don't connect them. Allow them to buffer the sounds around you, and giving yourself and your brain just that little bit of a break is going to make a big difference. And the other thing is, if you know that you feel better in your body with certain things near you or on you or around you, give yourself those things. If this were your best friend and your best friend really felt better with a certain situation, you would do that for her with no questions asked. I invite you to treat yourself as though you are your best friend and give yourself the things that you need to feel good, whether that's soft clothing, softer sheets, a satin or silk pillowcase, ambient lighting, reducing the noise level, whatever that is. Give it to yourself. Make yourself be just as important as your best friend. So, number one, just to make sure this is really clear, give yourself what you need. So, if you're feeling agitated or activated because of a certain sensation, give yourself what you need to feel better. Number two, one of the qualities and characteristics of people with increased sensitivity in any capacity means that they might need more time to process events and circumstances, conversations, and stimulation. And if you can add even 1 to 5 minutes a day of quiet white space, your capacity to function is going to be increased 100-fold. I promise. So you can do this with even kids as young as 2. I don't know that it's realistic to think you could do it with somebody less than 2. But for somebody 2 and above, you can do what I'm going to suggest right now. And that is use your microwave timer, because most of us have microwaves, and it's something that kids can see the countdown, and use that timer and set 1 minute per number of years and then create white space. So when I was raising my daughter as a single mom, if she was 5, I would put 5 minutes on the microwave timer, and then I would go to my room and I would either just sit on my bed or lay on my bed and look at the ceiling. I wouldn't do anything or consume anything. I would just be. And that habit lasted clear into her adulthood. And not only do I still do this, but she still does this every day. Just taking even 5 minutes or even 2 minutes if you have a 2-year-old just to be will make a tremendous difference in your capacity to think clearly and to deal with the stimulation that is around you. And I cannot recommend it enough. So the truth is, you're going to have to teach your kids to do this. And you're going to have to teach your family members to do this. So I used to do this by teaching the 3 B's. The 3 B's are bleeding, barfing, and broken. So if my daughter was bleeding, like not the hangnail from last Tuesday, but actually injured, she could interrupt this time. If something was broken, not the toy that's been broken for a month, but something that might be harmful now was broken, she could interrupt. And if she was barfing, or in other words, if she had nausea, she could interrupt. And I always kept the timer only to the number of years until she was about 15. And then when she was 15, she actually would request more time. She would say, could we do 30 minutes of quiet time today? Or maybe sometimes it was even 45 minutes a day as she got into her senior year of high school. And so not only are you helping your nervous system regulate, but you're also giving your kids a skill that they can use to regulate their systems. And so if you're doing this at work, like let's say you're working during the day, you can, I promise you, you can find 1 to 7 minutes to do this in the middle of your day, and it will make such a difference. When I was teaching full time, I would often set a timer on my phone for between 5 to 7 minutes over my lunch break, and I would do nothing, consume nothing. And by consume, I mean I wouldn't scroll on social media. I wouldn't listen to a podcast. I wouldn't be trying to do or consume anything. I would just be. And the ability that I had to interact and to be there and be present and show up for my afternoon was increased 100-fold, and it will be for you too. So, number 2, use timers to create white space. It'll make such a difference for you. Number 3 is to calm your nervous system with a square breath. So, a square breath is where you have an even number of counts for the inhale, a hold at the top, the exhale, and a hold at the bottom. So for example, maybe your number that you choose is 4. You would inhale for 4 counts, hold it for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, and then hold out at the bottom of the exhale for 4 counts, and then repeat for up to 2 minutes. I mean, you could do it longer if you wanted, but if you even have just 2 minutes to do this square breath, it'll make a tremendous difference in how you feel. So if you are capable and not driving, I invite you to try this with me right now. If you're driving, just come back to this, or you can do it on your own later. So I'm going to count you in for 4, And then lead you through the hold. Exhale for 4, lead you through the hold. I'm going to do 3 rounds of it with you counting, and then I'm going to do 2 rounds of it breathing with you so you can kind of hear what the breath might sound like. And so you'll notice a change in my sound when that happens. So let's get ready to breathe. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1, hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 2 on your own. I would be willing to bet you feel different than you did just a few breaths ago. So this is accessible to you anytime, anywhere. You can even go into the bathroom stall over your lunch break and just do some square breaths, and you'll find yourself calming down, regulating. And also, if you get an afternoon slump in energy, this is a great thing to do because it will actually energize you. So those 3 things again, to recap, the 3 things that'll make a big difference in helping your sensitivity is: number 1, give yourself what you need. Number 2, set timers to create white space for yourself. And number 3, use the breath to help regulate and calm your nervous system. So if you identify as someone who is highly sensitive, or you know someone who is, or you love someone who is, I want you to know that you are not alone. There is 20 to 30% of the population who feels the same way you do. You are not weird. You're not doing it wrong. You just have a different brain function than other people. You have a brain that functions a little bit like mine, and a little bit like a lot of people's, apparently. So I hope that, in fact, I request that you share this episode with somebody who you really care about, because if we can help each other as sensitive people know that we're not weird, we're not alone, we're not doing it wrong, we can allow ourselves to show up more fully in our lives and give the gifts and share the gifts that we have as sensitive people, and will make such an impact on the world. So I invite you to share this episode with somebody that you love. And if you haven't yet given the podcast a rating and a review, I invite you to do that, because it's really the number one way you can support the podcast. And my intention in this podcast is to give you tons of resources, support, and help. And it's all for free. And so the more that you can share the podcast, rate it, and review it, the more likely it is to show up in the feed of someone who really needs it. And it also helps grow the podcast. So thank you so much for being willing to do that. If you liked this episode, I would love to hear from you. DM me on Instagram at Brenda Winkle, or shoot me an email at brendawinkle.com. At brenda@brendawinkle.com. I would love to hear from you. And I want to invite you into something really special. On Wednesday, June 21st at 9 a.m. Pacific time, I am hosting Summer Solstice Breathwork. The summer solstice is a powerful and potent energetic opening. And the energy around summer solstice is all around new beginnings and new chapters, new possibility. And the summer solstice is so powerful that the ancients created sites and temples that do things that are special that you can only see on summer solstice. Light configurations, light shining in different parts. Like think about Stonehenge, for example, or Machu Picchu, or so many of the sites in South America. There's something so potent about summer solstice that people have known about it and celebrated it for thousands of years. In this potent breathwork session, we're going to be calling in your new beginning, whether that's an increased sense of peace and acceptance for who you are, or transformation into someone you want to become, whether that includes richer relationships, more fulfillment, perhaps a sense of well-being and calm, more abundance, whatever it is for you, we're going to call it in. So I invite you to join me, and I'll put the link in my show notes, or you can just visit brendawinkle.com/breathwork to register for that. It's $55 per person. And there is a limited time replay. So if you can't join us live, you can catch the replay for 48 hours. Thank you so much for listening to Your Yes Filled Life. We are now ranked in the top 5% globally of all podcasts. And that is because of listeners like you. So thank you, thank you, thank you for supporting the podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being you. Thank you for showing up in the world. And thank you for saying yes to you. Until next time, bye for now.